And you know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. Right. KP's Video News, y'all. And I'm glad that this next episode here, it says that black Americans are fired up and flocking to the polls. That's right. 5 alarm. Dave Richards arrived at his polling place before dawn, carrying a blue lawn chair and a giant bottle of water. And it was about 6 a.m. on October 12th, the first day of early voting in Georgia, and the business consultant was ready for a long wait in the Atlanta suburb of Smyrna, Georgia. After 3 hours in line, Richards 51 voted in what he called the most crucial election of a lifetime. This election is more important than the 2008 one for Barack Obama, and that 2008 one was for change and making history. This election is for saving lives, Richards said, citing concerns about racial justice and suppression of black voters. The racial divide that is going on, we need someone who is going to be a leader for everyone, not just for some. Across the country, black voters are turning out in huge numbers. The stakes this year are especially high, they said, and nothing less than their health and safety is on the ballot. In an interview, they said they're worried about racial injustice and police brutality. They feel devalued by a president who has hesitated to condemn white supremacy, and they fear losing health benefits if the Supreme Court overturns the Affordable Care Act. Many said this feels like the most important election of their lifetime. During a raging pandemic that has killed more than 223,000 Americans and ravaged black communities, many black voters could have mailed in their ballots, but after recent headlines about postal workers dumping undelivered mail and Trump's debunked claims questioning the integrity of mail-in ballots, many don't trust that process. So the pandemic did not scare me, Richard said. The way that 45 was talking about mail-in voting and lying about it, I wanted to do it in person. Many black voters said they didn't trust Trump. So far, this fall, African-American voters are rushing to the polls at much higher rates than they did 4 years ago when Hillary Clinton was on the ballot. By Tuesday, more than 600,000 black Americans had voted early in Georgia, compared to 286,000 2 weeks before the 2016 election. In Maryland, about 192,000 had voted compared to 18,000. In California, over 330,000 black voters showed up from 106,000 2 weeks before the election 4 years ago. That accounts for a Catalyst, a data company that provides analytics to Democrats, academics, and progressive advocacy programs. And Keith Green went to the polls last week in Overland Park, Kansas, to vote in person for several reasons. He said, we have a racist president who lies too much, he said. He keeps on saying he doesn't trust Democrats. Well, after everything that has gone on with the ballots, I don't trust the Republicans. Trump has repeatedly said he's done more, claims he's done more for black people than since Abraham Lincoln. As evidence, he cited low unemployment, blah, 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 criminal justice reforms, blah, 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 and an increase in federal historical black colleges and universities. But some black prominent, then you got some black Republicans out there that blah, blah, blah. But most black people are not convinced. Ballot polling over the summer found that 87% of black Americans disapproved of his job as president. Green said the Trump administration has left him worried about the future for his daughter and his grandchildren. He believes Trump has emboldened white supremacists and set the nation backwards on a path for civil rights and equality. The last 4 years have been so bad, he said, we can't stand for another 4 years of that. And Like people out there in droves, man. They out there doing what they got to do. So this is another story. It said, there's a lot of this stuff is going on. So this next story here, it said the police ramp up patrols after a man with a rifle allegedly said he was going to kill black people. And this is a man in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, allegedly made a threat against black people while walking around carrying a rifle, prompting police in the city to ramp up patrols. Officers were called to the 3500 block of Blanche Avenue in the city around 4:30 p.m. on Saturday after the man was seen there with a long gun. According to the station, officers spoke to the man and determined that he was not breaking any laws. It is legal to openly carry a weapon in the state in most scenarios. Officers said they spoke to witnesses, and none said they had seen the man pointing the weapon or making any threats. However, police said they had been alerted on Sunday to a social media post that alleged the man had said he was going to kill black people. In a statement, the Cleveland Heights Police Chief Annette Mecklenburg said officers are taking the claims very seriously and are working to locate the person who reported hearing the threat. Upon learning this information, officers are attempting to identify and locate the person who heard the man make these threats, which we take very seriously. And as we investigate, we will be increasing patrols in the area where the man was seen walking yesterday and across the city. So basically, you had the person that was there, cops come out, did you do anything wrong, buddy? No. Okay, have a nice day. Nice gun. Let the dude go. They don't even know who the hell he was and where he is now. So, on with another story pretty similar to that. Got a man arrested after pointing a gun in a dispute with his neighbors. 31-year-old man is in jail after authorities said he threatened his neighbors with a gun over the weekend. And this is a different city. This is Oakland County. Sheriff's office said deputies responded to Humphreys Drive in Oxford Township just after midnight Saturday on a report that a weapon had been brandished during an argument. A 34-year-old man told investigators that a neighbor approached his home and asked he and his wife to quiet down. When the man asked the neighbor to get off his property, she said he was being disrespectful to her and that she was going to get her husband. Sheriff's officials, the husband who is the suspect in the case, went to the property line and began shouting profanities. When the neighbors came back outside to see what was going on, it's alleged the suspect threatened to assault, pulling a silver-colored handgun from his hooded sweatshirt and pointed it at his neighbors. The complainant ran inside and called 911. No shots were fired. When deputies arrived, the suspect admitted he confronted his neighbors. Deputies were given access to the firearm and found one that matched the description given by the complainant, and the suspect was arrested and taken to Oakland County Jail, where he awaits expected charges. That's right. Get him. So this story here, and it's like, what I've been telling you guys about. Get ready, because this is another branch of the government that is stating, like I told you before, about them doing mass arrests and doing a mass sweeps and arrests before Election Day. This is going to proceed after Election Day, but as well. So now Homeland Security agencies are preparing for civil unrest amid heightened tensions nationwide. Two of the Department of Homeland Security's immigration enforcement agencies are preparing for the possibility of more civil unrest and amid a contentious election, according to officials, part of a concerted effort by federal and local authorities to prepare for large-scale protests. The Trump administration's deployment of federal officers to U.S. cities came under scrutiny this summer and drew accusations of DHS becoming politicized, as Trump administration officials claim local politicians of not doing enough to control protests. Officials in cities such as Portland, Oregon, Washington, D.C., meanwhile, argued the increased federal presence was fueling protests rather than de-escalating the situation. They and protesters also criticized federal officers for not having clearly distinct badges, leading the U.S. Attorney for the Oregon District to request an investigation. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is putting personnel on standby in the run-up to next week's election, according to a senior ICE official, while Customs and Border Protection has been regularly training personnel and extension of the deployment this summer, as an agency official said. We have teams ready to go as needed, the senior official performing the duties of the Homeland Security Deputy Secretary, but pointed out that we don't have any specific intelligence that suggests any particular threat of violence. And CNN previously reported that since January, more than 6 meetings have taken place in an effort to prepare various agencies for likely scenarios, according to the senior administration, and nearly 100 meetings in the past, 2 other law enforcement officials stated. And those meetings have included the White House National Security Council, the Office of Personnel Management, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the various agencies, intelligence agencies, and military. The level of contingency planning is standard practice ahead of national elections, and ICE and CBP have tactical law enforcement teams that can be deployed to augment other law enforcement if needed. So, you know, that's the story that they're telling. You know, hey, that's the story that they're throwing out there. However, it was another story that I had discovered, and it says something like maybe how many protests? I think it was like, I don't know. It was a lot of protests. A lot of protests are planned. A lot of protests are planned. I think it was something like maybe 800 or 900 protests have already been planned, just in case Trump decides he doesn't want to leave office. So a lot of groups have been organizing, and they've been saying they're going to make sure they go out and protest in mass numbers all the way across country. So let's see. Here's the story here. It says over 200. That's over 200 protests. So get ready, folks. It's getting ready to be something. Over 200 protests already planned if Trump attempts to dispute election results prematurely and to prematurely declare victory. If Donald Trump attempts to prematurely declare victory on election day or refuse to accept the results, he'll be met with swift action from a coalition of national democracy organizations. More than 200 count every vote demonstrations and counting have already been planned across the country by Protect the Results in an effort by Stand Up America and Indivisible amid the president's ongoing attacks in mail-in voting and the electoral process. Our view is that we can't bury our heads in the sand. And the founder and president of Stand Up America, we have to be prepared if he were to try to undermine the election results or prematurely declare victory. Indivisible co-founder and chief campaign officer stated a similar statement. Should Trump declare victory before all the votes are counted or prevent the legitimate counting of vote, he said, we will mobilize in every corner of this country to ensure the voters have the last word in November. 2 progressive groups partnered in June to create the coalition, which now includes over 100 grassroots organizations, liberal and conservative advocacy groups, and government watchdogs. Together, the coalition claims it has combined membership of tens of millions of people whom Etheridge says are ready to mobilize quickly if necessary. I think it could take millions of Americans rising up to demand every vote is counted and demand the ballot vote count is respected by state election officials, the Electoral College, and Congress. And the only way we're going to lose This election is, if the election is rigged, that's what Trump has been spouting out for the last who knows how many months. But the people are going to have the last vote. The people are going to have the last say in this one, because the people are not having it. The people are saying it. They're saying it outright. They are not having it. They are not having that nonsense. They're not going to let you just steal this election. And, they're not going to let you steal it. So it's not going to be, well, you coming out there on election night and all the votes haven't been counted and you talk about, yeah, well, I just won. It's not going to happen, partner. It is not going to happen. And then, as far as a peaceful transfer, they're going to make sure of that, because the government and a lot of other politicians have already stated they will do everything under the law to make sure there is a peaceful transition of power after this election goes off. So, no telling what the spoil sport might do between November 4th and January 20th when he had to vacate the White House. No telling what kind of dastardly deeds he might do. So, dishonest Don, you don't know what he might do.
KPVIDEONEWS, y'all.
That's right. Look out for dishonest Don.
It's time for what? KPVIDEONEWS, y'all.
That's right, folks. Look out for dishonest Don. You can't trust him. Peace.